Checkout tracking by the NPD Group brings you a receipt collecting system that gathers data anonymously through technology we created, providing your businesses with answers.
Jeremy Strauser, who has 20 years of games experience. He's spent time at Zynga and at Electronic Arts. And he is now vice president of the Topps Corporation, the Topps Company. And he is going to tell us all about taking the American childhood digital. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage, Jeremy Strauser.
Thank you, sir. All right, well, thank you, Scott. And while I have the distinct privilege of working with Michael Eisner at the Topps Company, I expected this room would be a little less crowded today than his speech yesterday, so not surprised about that. But happy to talk to you today about Topps and bringing that brand into the online space. As Neil mentioned in his last speech, kind of the inventor of the gotcha mechanic. So it's kind of an interesting way to transition into the online space. So quick intro to me. As Scott mentioned, I worked at EA for a career's worth and then did a stop at Zynga and had my own startup recently and then joined Topps at the beginning of this year. So a lot of people have asked me, why do you go to Topps? Why would you move to New York? You know, New York is not exactly the pinnacle of video games and technology, which actually is starting to change a little bit. But Topps for me was all about working with the great team that Mr. Eisner's put together and working with content that is just phenomenal, right? We have access to sports and to Star Wars, which is just absolutely fantastic, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about bringing this great brand of Topps into the digital space, what we've seen both in terms of challenges and opportunities, how we had to kind of adjust our mindset and how we structured the team, and I'll share some key learnings and some data points as I can along the way. So quick background on Topps in the pre-digital years. So Topps is a 77-year-old company. They were founded in 1938 with little pieces of chewing gum, and to sell more chewing gum, basically Topps invented the modern baseball card as you know it. The 2.5 by 3.5 piece of cardboard was invented in 1952 by Topps, and they shipped, over the years, hundreds of millions of physical cards, both in baseball, into football, into soccer in Europe and the rest of the world, and have done a tremendous business in that respect. They also happen to be the company that stayed with that chewing gum roots and built out the Bazooka candy brand. So if you've ever seen a ring pop or a push pop or anything like that, or had to deny that to your children at the checkout, that's where it comes from as well. So in 2007, as if you were at Michael's speech yesterday, he bought the Topps Company really as a play for a digital entertainment brand, and that's where we're at today. So what's in that name, Topps, right? I saw a lot of hands go up that own baseball cards or football cards. When I say Topps, this is kind of the memory that you probably see in your mind, whether it was sticking baseball cards in your tire spokes or trading them with your friends, or you were a hardcore collector, or in the case of many of us, my mother threw mine away, or that type of situation. Didn't really evoke digital video game memories, or not yet anyway. So what do we have to do? What do we have to do to kind of take this kind of old school, and I'll use the term that Michael Eisner used, I don't use it, it's a Rust Belt company, and try to bring it into the digital age. Topps is in a great position to do so because we have this iconic brand. So what do? We had to define our space. We have to kind of focus on what we know and listen to our customers, talk about how we do it, and we'll talk about some specific opportunities. So first of all, we had to kind of define who we were in the digital space. We had to define our niche. And we had to do this both with our business partners and licensors, because we do license content, and our customers, right? We've seen challenges in both spaces. So first, on the licensing side, we work with some of the biggest brands in the world, right? Star Wars, the English Premier League, Major League Baseball, and each one of them kind of had to get over this hump in their mind of what is a digital trading card, right? They needed that structure. They needed to know how to carve up their licenses. Licensors love carving up licenses to sell it to potential licensees. And we live in an interesting space, right? We live in this kind of trough in between traditional video game companies like the big EA Sports or 2K Sports that are making these great high-powered video games where I came from, and the traditional physical world where competitors like Panini and Upper Deck, do a very nice job of building trading cards. This space didn't exist, so Topps has really kind of built this market and established a space and established a market with our licensors here. At the same time, we needed to do this with our customers, right? So this was one of the early reviews when I was starting to research Topps, when I was starting to go there. It was, why would I possibly pay for a screenshot, right? Well, at the same point, that you decided it was okay to buy a song on your phone or buy a TV show or a movie on your phone, you probably crossed into the place where you could buy a digital card on your phone, even if you didn't know it yet. And so what we have to do is we have to present that value proposition as to what's behind that digital screenshot, so to speak. One of the ways we did this is we defined our space outside of games. So we chose purposely to list our apps in the non-game categories. So we are in the sports categories and we're in the entertainment categories. And the results have been that we've ended up being a bigger fish in a smaller pond, which has been good for exposure, it's been good for our licensors, it's been good for our customers to see us and discover us in those spaces. And what we ended up doing is we ended up climbing the tops of the charts, which we never would have done in the game space. So this was a conscious decision that paid off well for us. And then we leaned very heavily into what we know at Topps, kind of the Topps DNA, the Topps secret sauce of delivering trading card value and really paying off that gotcha mechanic. The original Topps Bunt, which was our first app, a baseball card app, went out and you could only own 9 cards at any one time, which doesn't sound at this point in time like a great idea, but at the time it was meant to stimulate trading and social, and there were lots of good motivations behind it. But our collectors have hundreds of thousands or millions of cards in their collection in the physical world. So we made a change to bring that to the digital world where we kind of made collections unlimited, and we saw the game take off, right? As you would kind of expect, it seems intuitive now, but it was counterintuitive at the time. And the second big major growth point for us was this concept of the insert card, the rare card, the find. You have to go get it. You have to chase it. And Chris Getz was the very first insert card into Bunt. We had only done a traditional baseball card set before that. We put out a rare Chris Getz insert, and the fans went nuts. Right? Revenue went off the charts, and they went and they needed to have every single rare thing that we dropped in. Sometimes we do cards that are 1 in 10 packs. Sometimes we do them in 1 in 1,000 packs. And you know what? Customers will open 1,000 packs to try to get to that rare set. So this was a huge thing for us and took that great retention and that great audience now and started to lift it off in the monetization side. And then lastly, the thing that Topps has always done, we really leaned heavily into this. So we've got, a wide open collection, rare inserts we have to do. So we leaned on kind of our expertise in the 77-year history of Topps of building just outstanding design cards that are now exclusive and only available in a digital format. So our team can release thousands of cards a week, whereas in the physical side, we go through a very involved and detailed production process that takes months and months to complete sometimes. So our team can put out artwork like this, which is very high quality, very collectible, and in the case of some of these, trade on the secondary market in eBay for hundreds of dollars per. So, and I'll talk about that and the challenges around that in a second. So at the same time, so while you're doing what you know and you're leaning into kind of understanding, what it is that you do best as a company, make sure you listen to your customers, because there were a couple of things along the way where just listening to our customers and talking to our customers on a daily basis, we have a very engaged and social app where our producers are live producers and they interact with the customers. The explosion of daily fantasy was going on. So DraftKings, FanDuel, those types of games were out there. Really inspired our live connected gameplay in Topps, where you basically have to use your cards to play a fantasy-style sports game. And it was a great addition for us to kind of add a third leg to our game. We had a nice collection, a nice trading aspect, and then we added this gameplay component. The trading aspect was actually not there originally in the scope that it is now. So we listened to our customers again. We expanded trading. We gave people trading ratings, so like eBay type rating for traders, gave them tools to find the best match for their cards that they were looking for, and it led to an explosion of of trading. We see over 1 million trades offered per day. And then the last thing is kind of this concept of off-season play. So we had this live play, which was great, and then we were seeing tremendous peaks and valleys, right? When there were matches being played in soccer, we saw a lot of usage, a lot of engagement. When matches were not being played and in the off-season, we'd see tremendous troughs, right? Very seasonal. So we're trying to level that out, and what we saw was a concept that ended up becoming our first non-sports game, which spawned the Star Wars game. So we got some interesting things that kind of came out of that learning and that knowledge as well. Within the company, Topps, as I said, is a big, kind of an older company that has well-established processes, well-established departments. The digital group likes to run as a startup within that company. So there's a I don't know if it's famous or infamous at this point, the lean startup that I like to leverage, and I like to think about this. But we take a lot of these principles and we try to apply them in a small team within a bigger organization. So we have a little bit of best of both worlds because we can operate in this way with a tremendous amount of support behind us from an established company. But I guess my advice here would be, in whatever you do, don't lose the fact that you kind of are starting something up. You're building something from scratch. Even if you work within a big company like EA, make your team feel as small as it can be and as small as possible. And then at the same time, don't forget that you're part of something bigger. At Topps and at Topps Digital, we really thought about where we fit in the life cycle of a Topps customer. So Neil mentioned collecting cards and trading them on the schoolyard in the UK, which is a big thing for the Topps business now. They have a product called Match Attacks, which is really kind of kids type product. Can we graduate that audience into the Topps digital apps, which then span our next audience that maybe becomes the adult collector, which is kind of the hardcore, high value customer for Topps. And where we've seen a nice kind of insertion into this life cycle for digital to be, to fill a gap where we didn't really have a transitional point. And then this one is somewhat unique to us, but it is something that's been mentioned a couple of times in terms of marketing. It's been mentioned a couple of times in terms of operations in other games, is think about a physical component and a physical tie, right? Since user acquisition and since customer acquisition is so difficult and discovery is absolutely the #1 challenge facing everybody at this conference, what can your company do? How can you partner with a company that has some sort of a retail or physical presence? And this is something where Topps has this is a nice advantage. I love to have this on our side. We've done some interesting things inserting digital card inserts into our physical product. And the only way to get the digital card was to buy the physical product. And what we've seen customers chase down physical product to get these cards. So very nice, interesting kind of cross-promotion within the company, but also a nice way to get our new digital products in front of new players as well. So you'll see some stats there. The redemption rate on kind of a mass scale is a little bit lower, just like you would expect. But on the collector side, the redemption rate is really, really nice. And there's actually a lot of them not being redeemed because it is decreasing their value. They become a collectible in their own right. Which leads me to that kind of secondary market and the collectible value here. The concept of ownership in the digital age is something that the Topps has really embraced. So, we have to get our terms of service and our reality kind of keeping up with the expectation here, but we never take a card back from a customer after they buy it. So we have this concept that you own the card, you can trade the card, you can resell that card, and we support that kind of open environment. We have some rules and restrictions. We want to provide a safe trading place for it, but it is something that is kind of intrinsic to this concept of a digital trading card. So in quick summary, we've defined that new market. We really tried to focus and be that nimble startup, even within a bigger company. We adjusted to our customers' feedback, and we started kind of exercising that advantage of a physical integration component. Some of our like every startup, we have our misses as well. And I think in our case, we transitioned out of some of those seasonal peaks and valleys, which was a great thing. And we still have some work to do on that, defining that ownership component there. So that's it. Thank you.
Familiar with this business, but I find it highly interesting. So I have a digital card on my iPhone.
Sure.
How do I trade it or sell it to somebody else? What do I do to trade it, and how do I beam it to his? How does this work?
So we need to get you to install Topps Bunt or Topps
Okay.
Kick, but that'll be the first part, because you trade it within our ecosystem. So the card lives within our servers, right? It's a client server setup.
Right.
And let's say you search for a particular card that you want. I own it. You offer me a trade of other cards. That trade is completed and our server makes it
So
happen.
I can find a card within your database, the owner of that particular card,
Absolutely.
and contact him
Yes.
and start bribing him to give me that card.
Well, you're offering a trade. You're
Okay.
trying to find that value for that person, and I
Okay,
think
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's and we give you all sorts of tools to find the right person to trade with. So you'll see my trader rating if you offer something to me. You'll see my collection, all of that type of thing.
And if I offer payment, is there a payment gateway?
Not within the app right now. That kind of happens on eBay and some of the secondary card markets right
Okay.
now, where the collectors have taken that physical world and mimicked it into the digital space.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that we'll have to take a look at in the future.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm curious on the digital packs. Are they pre-minted or are they generated randomly? And the idea of if you've got a rare card that's one in every 10,000, you generate one in every 10,000 cards that way and then shuffle them all and make the packs? Or when you open a pack, is there a 1 in 10,000 chance that you get the card at that point?
It's the latter, and it's more like a slot machine if you think about it in that respect. Every pull is kind of independent. Every pack you open is independent of the last one, but the odds that they are set are preset.
So that's different then from the tangible market and the idea of when you're actually physically printing cards, 1 in every 10,000 will be that. So it could be that if there's 1 in every 10,000, those magic cards may never actually be seen.
There are some exceptions to that. We do some limited editions as well, where we guarantee that there's going to be only 250 or something of that nature of a particular card. So that there are some gives and takes on that. But for the most part, the nice thing about digital is you're able to kind of create the content on the fly based on that demand and based on those odds.
And is it purely random, or do you sort of, if people pull lots and lots and lots of cards, you say, well, hey, you've been drawing sort of snake eyes all the time, I'm going to stack the odds a little bit more to encourage you to pull more packs by looking after you?
No, we haven't done that yet, and I don't think we can. I think that's kind of a social contract that we have with our customers, that the pack odds are exactly what that we say they are. You know, it's not regulated or anything of that nature, but it is something that we take very, very seriously, that we don't cheat in that respect. We do intro packs and welcome packs and certain packs that have much higher odds to make sure that you can get some of the rarities and cool things if you want to find them. But we never betray our odds, and we never kind of stack the deck, so to speak.
So as the product suggestion, have you ever thought about actually selling Lucky Charms, and the idea of saying, hey, for $10 you've got a slightly better chance of drawing a nicer card? It's a much more positive thing about selling luck as opposed to sort of drawing blanks.
In a way, we do. There is a VIP program that we have, and VIPs have access to a special type of pack that has better odds.
We've got time for a lot more.
Sure.
This is the first time, I think this is my 7th Casual Connect, first time anyone's like pulled the microphone out of my hand to ask a question. That must have been the most engaging talk ever.
I think people don't, understand the concept, and we're new to the space, so it's good that people want to understand it, want to understand Topps.
It's exciting. I have a question for you.
Of course.
In your slides, you were talking about following the lean methodology, the kind of blank Reese entrepreneurial methods.
Right.
And there's a meme in the games industry, which is lean doesn't work for game development. I was wondering if you could just touch on that a little bit.
I actually disagree with that. I think
I do too.
So, okay, good.
You're the speaker.
So nice that you set me up for that one. I appreciate it. No, I think lean absolutely works, and I think Neil mentioned it before, is a very small number of people can create something that will generate a lot of value for either a small company or a big company or a medium company, in any respect. And I think lean absolutely works in the cycle that you need to have for listening to your customers, evaluating, and redoing it, and kind of going back to that drawing board. Once you kind of reach a critical mass, you get to a point where it kind of falls down somewhere along that chain.
You actually track cycle times or buffer times in your organization.
We track product release time for us, which is, it's kind of hard to grasp, but we actually put out live content multiple times a day on each of our products. So we, in some cases, will release 5 or 6 different product releases over the span of 24 hours that will drop, and you'll get a notification, you'll get an email, whatever, the way that you've chosen to be connected to us. You're going to get that push that says, all right, right now, between the hours of 6 and 7 Pacific, is the only time you're ever going to be able to buy this rare Han Solo vintage card in Star Wars Card Trader. And we drop that, and we monitor that cycle time from when we drop content, when customers come in, and then how that performs, and then we go to the next one, and kind of that type of thing. So if we break our content release cycle, which is different than a product release cycle, like a software release cycle, that's the one that we're focused on right now, is the product side, but we're just getting there on the software side.
Cool. Well, we have 5 minutes left for questions, so.
Hi,
one back there.
Did Apple give you any trouble with the Apple App Store with buying physical goods that unlock digital content?
We have to, yes, is the short answer. We want to make sure that we're good partners with Apple and with Google. That one lives outside the app in terms of code redemption, where we can tie into your account, which is on the server side.
Gotcha.
This gentleman here.
So it's a very similar question to the question just asked. Could you name me the type of brands that have used this engagement that you have to buy a physical product? Because I really like that approach, that you have to buy a physical product in order to open up the digital one.
Well, I mean, look, the big ones out there are, Disney Infinity and Skylanders and those types of things. That they've perfected this, right? And they've generated billions and billions of dollars of revenue off of that.
No, what I mean with your product so far. Have you tested it?
Brand, like the licensed brands that we work with. It's really across the board. So we'll do we've done things with Major League Baseball. We'll do things with Star Wars. We've done things with MLS, and we're doing some things in Europe with the Bundesliga and the Premier League.
Sorry, I should rephrase. Meaning, do you have to buy a physical product in order to get? You mentioned in your speech that you're bundling it. So I'm from Europe, so I know Bundesliga very well. Do I have to buy some German physical product?
That's right.
Which one?
In that case, it's a product called Topps Chrome or Topps Elite. It's a pack of cards, basically.
And when you're working with a different kind of brand, that you have to buy their product, that means you're bundling it with another brand. I'm basically asking that question.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, I should have rephrased it.
I see. So yes, in our case, we own both of those products, right? So we own both the digital side and the physical side.
Okay, so you don't work with serial manufacturer or anything, or movie chain. You buy a movie ticket, you can get a Star Wars. Is that possible?
Not at this point. I think it's possible. I think the bigger that your brand is, as Topps continues to grow, I think there will be opportunities for that type of thing. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time.